Hey,
How are you?
I am good. Can you hear me? Is everything
Yes,
good?
we hear
La
you.
la
We
la
hear
la
you.
la. Good, good. It's good to be here.
We hear you. And we're so happy to have you here. And, just to celebrate this time of year is so special for people and special usually because we are traveling.
Yeah.
I'm from Baltimore. This will
Hmm.
be the first Christmas that I think I've ever had in my house.
Well,
I'm
you know what?
always getting in. I live in New York. I'm getting in a car, driving to see my mama and my sister and her family, and we are not doing that because we're following directions, right?
Yeah.
But that sense of family is still what all of us think is so very important. And as a family man, you have three children. As a pastor shepherding over a large flock, what are your thoughts right now for families during this time?
Well, I packed my bags and I moved away from Michigan where I lived my entire life. So, to be down here in Texas, more or less by myself, my children, one's here with me, and he's been
Okay.
with me since COVID hit, since the shutdown. He was able to work remotely, but he actually lives in the DC area. And then my daughters, they both live in Alabama. And it's just different because my mom's in Michigan, my brothers are in Michigan, my nieces and nephews are in Michigan. So we're going to be spending. My daughters are coming here. They're driving actually,
Okay.
and from Alabama to Texas, they like to drive for some strange reason.
And they've been quarantining, right? So they're going
They
to be
have been
safe.
quarantining,
Okay.
and they're actually taking tests
Very
before they
good.
come. They're definitely
Good.
taking their tests
Good.
before they come. And I mean, it's just weird. It's very weird not to be able to assemble. We usually go to Florida. We've been going to Florida for Christmas for 21 years.
Wow.
And the fact that we're assembling here together, just us four, for Christmas is an amazing thing. So it's different, but preferably, hopefully, in 2021, things will be sort of kind of normal again.
Now, you mentioned moving from Michigan to Texas.
Hmm.
You actually just give us some context because you started a church in Michigan.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell us about that church and then the shift.
Wow. I mean, I started Lighthouse 17 years ago.
Right.
And when I started Lighthouse 17 years ago, I really felt like that was the assignment for my life,
Mhm.
that that would be the place where I would, spend the rest of my life pastoring and discipling people as it pertains to having a real relationship with the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Well, about 2 years ago, actually three now, 3 years ago, the Lord began to deal with me about leaving. And I was like, where am I going to go? I'm not going to send out resumes and all this kind of stuff. And then on top of that, usually when you start something, you don't leave it.
That's
You usually stay, and once you birth it, you make sure you stay connected to it, or keep it until until you die.
right.
And God just kept dealing with me, about leaving. And I just decided one day, I said, okay, God, after fighting and fighting and fighting, I said, okay, you win. And made the decision to transition from, the Lighthouse Church to come to Texas. What's so strange though is that in order for me to make sure that it was God, even though we're people of faith, preachers are people of faith, we do what we call fleece God. We'll fleece him.
And
Okay,
what
if
is
this is you,
fleecing? What
what
is
is
fleecing God?
fleecing God just simply means, we'll say, God, if this is really you, do this. And that's what I did. And I'm like, okay,
Okay.
so if you're really telling me to move, I need you to pay off everything.
Uh-oh.
And we
And that
had,
sounds like a negotiation.
that's exactly what it is. It's a negotiation. So
Is
I'm
that
like,
what
okay,
you recommend to your parishioners that they negotiate with God?
I don't know if I recommend them negotiating with God, but I'm thinking, God, we owed at that point $2.7 million on everything that we owned. And my mindset is I didn't want to leave this level of debt in the
Mm,
hands of a young pastor, or
understood.
whoever was going to be my successor. So I said, okay, God, if this is really you, because I know you keep telling me, everybody that I'm connected to, that I trust, they're telling me things that you're saying to them as it pertains to my future. And I'm like, okay, God, if this is really you, pay off everything. And if you pay it off, then I know it's you. Well, he did it. And I mean, he did it like within 90 days of me saying that to him. Yeah, really. We had a 17-acre campus. It was a college campus that we bought, I think around 12 years ago. And when we bought the college campus, I had my charter school on there. We had our worship services on there. We had all of our stuff on there. And my board decided, after we merged our school back with the public school system, they decided that they wanted to sell the property. Well, in selling that one property, it paid off all of the properties. So at that particular point in time, I was like, okay, God, where am I going? Because again, I'm not sending out no resumes, because if I did, it would go viral. So at that point, my phone really just started ringing. And
isn't that something?
I had multiple options of places to go. And I settled here in Texas. And I think the greatest blessing about me leaving Grand Rapids, and I say this, in all sincerity, sometimes you stay longer than you need to, and you don't really understand when it's time for you to go. And I believe that the best thing that could have ever happened to myself, and the best thing that could have ever happened to my local church that I started, is for me to leave, because they are.
And Marvin, I want to give context to this, because I've read at least one of your books, and
Right.
lots of things about you, and in learning about you, to really honor your story, you and your wife,
Oh yeah.
who was your childhood sweetheart, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You fell in love, you got married, you built the church together.
Yeah, we did.
You have your 3 children, and very tragically, your wife passed away.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if the fact that this life world church community was something that you built with her, was it important for you to make a transition, to move also to just free that space for whatever the new life would be?
Yeah, and honestly, I didn't think about it from the standpoint of my own personal, things that I may want to do in the future. I really felt like my church didn't begin to heal until I left, because I was a constant reminder of who Melinda was to the church. And, for them to be able to move on and to be successful, they had to be able to grieve and to move on. And for, oh my God, 10 of the 16 years that I was there, they weren't able to grieve and do all the things that they needed to do in order to move on successfully. And we did well, because again, when I walked away from pastoring Lighthouse, I left a debt-free situation, a growing church. We had 500 active members. And since I left, they're doing extremely well. I made sure technology was what it needed to be at the church before I left. So I handed over to a young man who has taken the reins, and he is doing exceptionally well. Shout outs to Pastor RJ Marshall, who is killing the game in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And my church is doing very, 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 very well.
And let's talk about this, because in the context of churches across the country, and really not just churches, but spiritual centers, whatever one's faith might be, there's a real challenge in keeping our houses of worship open.
Right.
Many houses of worship have shrunk way before COVID, have shrunk their congregation base. People don't tithe in the way that they used to, or whatever. Again, I want to broaden this out to all folks in whatever their spiritual path may be. The congregations are diminishing. A church with 500 members is a good sized church.
That's a mega church.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm right.
I think mega is relative. I mean, based upon the city that you live
obviously
in.
there's some that are larger, but this is a good size, healthy sized church.
Right.
Can you talk about what did you do there? And I know that you're also doing this at Chosen Vessel in building out a community. What would you offer to other spiritual leaders who are struggling?
Well, I think what I did in Grand Rapids is absolutely what I'm not doing here.
Okay.
COVID changed the game for everything. The stuff that we have to do now in order to successfully evangelize, disciple, and minister to people. I mean, it's all trial and error. I mean, you know, so I would tell the pastor in this day and time, try everything, because you know we don't know what's going to work right now. This ain't stuff they taught us in seminary. This ain't stuff, you know, they didn't teach us what do you do when the church closed down and the government says that you can't go in. I mean, these are not things that we were taught. So, you know, in Grand Rapids, I was always the individual who was, you know, about outreach. And the reason why I was so outreach oriented is because, again, my international name, my international ministry. So I knew I had people that would watch me from all over the world. So I made sure at Lighthouse, you know, when we had streaming and things of that nature, before we had Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all that kind of stuff, I made sure that we were able to be viewed by tens of thousands every week. So even though I had
through your website?
It was through my website. It was through an organization called Streaming Faith. Actually, we won 2 years in a row the most viewed ministry on the Streaming Faith network. So I made sure back then, in our second year of church, the second year after we started our church, I didn't go on public access television. I went on regular TV. We were on the Fox network in my city. So even though we had 500 people sitting in the sanctuary, I wanted to make sure that we were able to minister to the masses. So I built the infrastructure. Yeah, I built the infrastructure to be able to handle that.
And all that technology.
All that technology.
I mean, that takes an investment.
Oh my God. So when I got here, they had none of that. So it was like starting over. But it's been fun.
Wait, starting over, because some people may not know, Chosen Vessel in Fort Worth, Texas.
Right.
When you came, it was 99 years old. So this is a old building. So the old buildings have all kinds of things that are wonderful, but also all kinds of challenges.
Yeah.
So now you get here, and shortly after you get here, I mean, you were here for a minute, but then COVID happens. Had you already put the electronics and all that technology into the Chosen Vessel before COVID came?
Yeah, and you know, this is what happened, which was really great. COVID saved us because you know, when I first got here, they didn't have any of the things that I was accustomed to having at home. So immediately I said to our leadership, look, you know, my ministry, the success of my ministry is outside viewers as well. So we need to start putting things in place and building that infrastructure so that we can technologically compete with churches. I mean, like I was doing at home. The reason why a lot of their members knew about me is because they were able to watch me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. They had none of that. They hadn't bought television equipment since 1998. So when I came in, I'm like, oh my God, I'm in the dark ages. But, you know, I had teams, I had individuals who understood it. So we were able to immediately start buying cameras and updating everything and doing all the things we needed to do. So when COVID hit, we had all of that stuff together, but there was still there were still some things I wanted to do. I wanted to put an LED wall in, and I wanted to do all these different things, the same stuff I had in Michigan. And when I say COVID saved us, what I ended up having to do is, because when I first got here, we may have had like 400 active members, give or take. When we closed up, we had like 1,300 active within the 6-month period that I was here. And one of the things that really blessed me is I began to tell like the young people and the young adults, you know, you guys have to teach your parents how to get on social media. Like, you know, your grandparents, because, you know, the average age of my deacon is like 75. So it's like, okay, you guys got to teach them about how to get on YouTube and these things, because now that's the only way they're going to be able to come to church. And they learned it. The seniors, the youngers taught the older ones.
I love that. Intergenerational
education. They taught the older ones. They sat with them, taught them how to give electronically, explained to them how safe it is. So they went through the whole process with me kind of, I'm not going to say prodding them, but encouraging them to do so. And so now we're a church that we've been closed, and technology levels are through the roof. Even now, when I get through talking to you, I got a team in there that putting in all of our intelligent moving lights, in order so we can make sure that we're, a cutting edge facility, because the church really hasn't closed. The pews have just changed.
Right. You don't have as many people coming in. No, but what is the size of the congregation at this point?
So our regular congregation is 1,300, but then we started a church called Chosen Vessel Everywhere, which is our virtual church. We have over 400 members on our virtual church as well. So we probably got about 1,700 total. But when I say the pews have changed, I'm not talking about people coming into the sanctuary. I'm talking about the initial way God wanted church to be, and that was house to house. So even though they're not coming into the sanctuary like they used to, that's fine, because we average on Sunday morning approximately 70,000 views just on one of our social media platforms. I can't put 70,000 people in the sanctuary of this church. We only got 1,500 seats. So
you're touching so many people. That's beautiful. And one of the things that you have done during this time of COVID is to make a new album.
Oh yeah.
And which is called Chosen Vessel.
Yeah.
Which also happens to be the name of the church. I would like to play an excerpt from the first single from that album, and we'll talk about it on the other side. Let's play.
Cool.
You got me waving, and oh man, I feel so full. I feel the tears. I mean, all of it. The emotion in that song is really something. I understand why people love you, because you touch the heart. You touch the heart.
I think the key thing that I've always endeavored to do is to try to, share music that ministers to me. And I just kind of feel like if it ministers to me, it should minister to whoever else listens to it as well. And especially in this season of COVID, we have to be thankful, even though things may not have gone the way that we designed or desire for them to go. The Bible makes it emphatically clear that we're supposed to give thanks in all things. So
that's right. Not
for all things. And I think that's something that many of us get stuck in, that we think that the only time we're supposed to bless God is for things, when the truth of the matter is in every situation, we're supposed to tell him thank you.
My mother is 91 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I know it's a blessing to have her. And she has always taught my sisters and me, and now her grands, to find the good in every situation. Mm-hmm. No matter what. And she was singing in her church until she was about 88.
Oh,
and
wow.
So she still sings, but not in church now.
Mm-hmm.
But that joy, make a joyful noise. That's what we have experienced at Christmas time. She's always singing, but also singing the song of the soul, which is find the goodness in everything. And I think that song, thank you for it all, can be hard for some people. So for those who are listening right now, who may be struggling, who don't feel gratitude because, they've lost someone they love, they may be suffering themselves, they may have lost their job. This is an incredibly challenging time for many people. What words of wisdom can you offer people who are feeling fragile right now?
Well, there's an old saying, and at first I used to think it was very, very insensitive when people used to say this. But then as I begin to think about it, it makes all the sense in the world. My father and, my uncles used to say, every day above ground is a good day. Every day above ground is a good day. I was like, wow, that sounds so cold. But the truth of the matter is that it is. I mean, what they were actually saying is that it could be so much worse. And I think what we tend to do is we tend to focus on the negatives. We tend to focus on the things that have happened to us rather than focusing on how things could have been worse. That has always been my mentality. I made a decision after I went through probably one of the most traumatic occurrences that any person could ever go through. Is I made a decision to always be optimistic. You know, I always look at things and I always examine them, and I say to myself, okay, what is God trying to teach me in all this? Because there's always a message in the madness, and there's always something that God is trying to teach us. So what's the lesson that he's trying to teach you in this particular moment, season, and time? If you keep focusing on the negative, you're going to remain discouraged. But if you begin to ask questions about why am I here? What are you trying to teach me? What do I need to learn? Simply because I don't want to have to keep going through this over and over and over again. And God is a rewarder of those that diligently seek him. If you come after it, he's going to give you the answer that you need, and it's going to make you feel better.
I'd like to talk a bit about grief.
Right.
Because you were fortunate enough to have fallen in love with your childhood sweetheart. You married her, you built a life with her, and she died in 2010.
Yeah.
It's grief is hard anyway, but someone who you spent so many years with, how did you heal? What was that experience like for you to come through the grief and be where you are today?
Healing is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. And I can be honest with you. I think that I'm still healing. I personally don't think that you ever get to that place and that space where you are totally and completely healed and whole from someone that you loved and lost. Not necessarily lost them as if they've gone out of your life, but you've lost them from the standpoint of it wasn't your plan. You had different plans. You had a different focus. You had a different goal. When your kids left, we supposed to be running around the house chasing each other butt naked. It was not the plan to be, an empty nester in an empty house at the same time. So I just think that, everybody goes through the process of healing differently. Me personally, I learned something about me that I didn't know. I learned that my faith in God was much deeper than I thought it was. I know, during the time when Melinda was sick, we used to listen to, healing scriptures all the time and things of that nature. And honestly, I thought it was for her. When I used to read them to her when she was sick or when she was, in pain or what have you. I'd read these scriptures to her and sing songs. And I'm thinking, that my assignment was to minister to her. But I began to realize that these things I was saying, they were actually ministering to me. So when she transitioned from this life to life eternal, I did what I was just accustomed to doing. And that was cling to God, not to church. See, because I think that what people tend to do is they tend to feel like that church and God are the same thing. God inhabits the church, but I decided to cling to him. And I think my clinging to him and, going to counseling, which was everything.
Yes, and that's important. And not everybody of faith believes in counseling. So I'd like to talk about what is the importance of counseling in becoming whole again for people who need it.
Listen, my wife was a licensed psychologist by profession. I got two daughters, even as we speak. That she's in her master's program in psychology. My baby girl, she just finished her psych degree. She has a dual degree that she's doing psych and biology. She finished her psych degree yesterday, last week, and then she'll finish her biology degree in May. I think it's one of them. I'm not sure.
I think she's smart.
Yeah, she is. She's an overachiever. That's what she is. She's going to medical school. Wow. But the first thing I did was to get myself and my children into therapy because it's one thing to pray through, but it's another thing to have somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
And the pain never goes away. It comes in waves. So you need somebody who can legitimately teach you how to process it and the things that you need to go through in order to de-escalate and things of that nature. So, I mean, even today, I actually had an appointment with my therapist via FaceTime today. I had to reschedule it, but I'm a strong believer that it's important.
I'm glad you're saying that, because it is important. And I want to pivot a little bit, but talking even more deeply about family, you became a single father with 3 children. I mean, they weren't babies, but still with 3 children who were grieving. And just for context, you know, when we look at the stereotypes about Black folk, it's usually the daddy's not present. You know, it's usually that it's not a nuclear family, that there's a husband and a wife. And you were all of those things with your wife and your family, and then she was gone. You were busy. You were on the road. I mean, you've got 12 albums and you've traveled everywhere because of your great talent, and also you had the support of your wife in order to be able to do all of those things. So what changed for you in order to reprioritize and be able to be the single parent in a family where all the hearts were tender?
Well, I mean, like, I was at the height of my career when she passed. I mean, I just gotten my second BET award, and then 3 months later she was gone. So it was like, you know, my kids and I, we were hit with a ton of bricks all at the same time. Well, the first thing I made a commitment to do is I told my children that they were going to be my focus until they became adults, period. And that's what I did. And that's what I've done. And I really just felt like, okay, God, you know, if I focus on them and if I look out for them and if I take care of them, you know, you're going to give me enough life after they're grown to be able to experience the life that I want to experience. And, you know, he was faithful to that. You know, now in the process, I dated, and I would tell people that I dated, listen, you know, I'm not trying to find a wife. You know, I'm focusing on my children for at least 5 to 7 years. If you're looking for a husband, I'm not your guy. And, you know, but if you like to have nice dinner and adult conversation, I'm the one that you want to be connected to. And I was very open and honest in that whole process. And I focused on my babies. That's what it was. You know, I still traveled because this is what I did. I remember we had a conversation and I told my kids, it's funny now, I said, now listen, I said, now you all have grown accustomed to a certain lifestyle. And I said, now, if you want to maintain the lifestyle that you all enjoy, don't cause no problems at school. Don't cause no problems in the street. Because if I got to come home, my lifestyle is going to remain the same. Yours is going to change. That means I'm selling
consequences.
I'm selling your car, and I'm taking your this, and I'm taking your that. But I'm going to keep doing and living the way I enjoy it because I'm doing all things right. And my kids, this is a true story, they have never, to this day. And when their mom passed 10 years ago, they were 11, 13, and 16 years of age. From that day to this day, they have never caused me any problems as it pertains to I had to jump on the plane and come back home and choke one of them out and then get back on the plane. You know, never had to do that. And it's been a blessing. But then again, my kids, they understood what I did. They had an amazing grandmother who stepped in and was that maternal figure for them. And I took care of my mother-in-law and made sure she took care of them. And even now, while I'm here in Texas, she stays in Michigan. I still take care of her.
That's amazing. And let's talk about taking care of you, because there was a time that you decided you needed to pay more attention to your health than you had, which, by the way, is very common when people are really busy.
Oh
and
yeah.
doing whatever their creativity is or whatever it might be, they aren't always paying attention to the vessel.
Right.
Speaking of chosen vessel, the vessel that you're in. So
Yeah.
what did you do? What happened and what was your pivot?
You know what? I think what happened was my daughter actually came to me and said, "Daddy, you know, you're bigger than you usually are." And I wasn't really paying attention to it. And then, you know, you eat when, you know, that's comfort food. So, you know, and I shot up to over 300 pounds,
Wow.
well into my 300s. And I was like, oh my God, I think I was like at the heaviest, I was like 310 pounds. And I said, no, I can't do this anymore. And actually, all of my children were off at college at that particular point in time because my daughter said it to me one Christmas.
Okay.
And I went home and I talked to my therapist. And after talking to my therapist, he said, Marvin, you know, you're going through some things emotionally. He said, you need to join the gym. So I went and I joined the gym and I started working out and I stopped eating out, start making my own food at home and started cooking, things of that nature. And I dropped about 45, 50 pounds.
Excellent.
And I felt good. I felt really, really good. And I gained about 20 back, but I'm back on it now. So I'm looking forward to getting back to that Marvin, you know, where he's, you know, a little bit more fit and more healthy. And strangely enough, my doctor told me, he said, Marvin, you got to be the healthiest overweight guy I've ever met for my life because I don't have diabetes. I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have high cholesterol. I mean, I was just overweight. So, you know,
that in and of itself is a
yeah, it's
blessing.
everything. I mean, especially with the type of job that I have, you know, stress and stuff. So I think the blessing for me has been that I've been able to, you know, maintain a particular life without having to take any medications of any sort. And I feel pretty good at 53 years of age. I'll be 54 in January to be able to say that.
That's a beautiful thing. And for all the folks listening who have been sitting like we do now, doing video technology every day for all these months, to get up and move is the biggest gift you can give yourself. It is everything.
And I got a big old gym in my house, so there's no excuse for me.
There's so many people who have equipment and that equipment sits and gets dust. So you're not gonna let yours get any dust, right? You're going back to that that plan.
I walk up the stairs and I do at least 20 minutes on the 25 minutes on the treadmill and then do some workouts, you know, with the chest and things of that nature. So I'm getting back into it again now because
so important.
Yeah, I need to be, you know, it's hot down here. You can't have all this on you down here.
I hear you. Now you have just based upon your career and your life and your ministry, you have connected with all kinds of people. And I would love to talk a little bit about some of those relationships. So you did a collab with Snoop Dogg?
Yeah, I did.
Come on, bring it.
Oh my God. I did a collab with Snoop Dogg on one of his records. I did
because he's doing gospel music now, right?
Yeah. Snoop was like, listen, you know, my grandmother his grandmother who was a very, very saved, I mean, strict saved, like old school, you know, no cussing, no drinking, long skirt wearing woman. She told Snoop, she said, I can never listen to any of your music because the stuff that you do, you know, it's just, I don't agree with it. Da, 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 da. So Snoop decided that he wanted to do a record to honor his grandmother. And it was fun. I mean, like he sent the song to me and I listened to it and I was like, Snoop, can I change some of this stuff up on this song and write a little bit on it so I can, you know, because it's definitely Snoopified, but it needs to be sappified a little bit, you know.
All right.
So he sent it to me and let me change some of the lyrical content on it. And yeah, I mean, it was great. I mean, I've been blessed to have people like, you know, DJ Khaled to sample music
Well, so
of me.
wasn't it your that huge hit? Never would have made it. Did he sample that?
Yeah, he said that. Matter of fact, I got this sitting right here now. This one,
Okay,
and
let's
this
see.
is
Let's see.
crazy. He sent me this. This is crazy. He sent me this. Uh,
Oh,
yeah. So because it went multi-platinum of some sort, he made sure he sent me this record with his son on it. You know, it says presented to Marvin Sapp to commemorate platinum certified of more than 1 million copies of We the Best. So I mean, it's real cool. So between him and Yeezy and even Lil Wayne, you know, I
okay.
didn't tell people.
Go to Yeezy first. Tell us the Yeezy. Come on, you can't just say Yeezy and go past it like that's nothing.
Well, I mean, Kanye West took one of my songs, and actually one of his artists, Tiana Taylor, she actually did Never Would Have Made It, her own rendition of it. And then
didn't even Justin Bieber do a
version? Justin Bieber just sings it in worship. But he didn't.
Okay.
I wish he would take it and redo the whole song. He can go in the
studio. But again, here's another one, Justin Bieber, who has become publicly a man of faith.
Yeah. So it's amazing. And then, you know, now, you know, they took it and a DJ took it and made it like one of the hottest hip hop songs of the country. And now everybody's dancing to it, they're working out to it. They playing it in the clubs, they doing all kinds of stuff. And people are always saying, oh my God. Matter of fact, Jamie Foxx just this week. Jamie Foxx just this week. Yeah, Jamie Foxx just this week. I guess he turned 53. And on Instagram, he and some of his dancers, I guess they danced to this remixed version of Never Would Have Made It.
Okay, I'm gonna put you on the spot, Bishop Marvin Sapp.
Oh God!
Just give me the chorus, the bar. Never Would Have Made It. Come on.
Okay, that's that. I went in all the wrong keys. Never would have made it. Never could have made it without you. I would have lost it all. But now I see how you were there for me, and now I can say, that's it.
Look, we have to have you singing it. Everybody else is singing it. Come on, that's the one, everybody, that shot up the charts for 46 weeks.
46 weeks. It is the longest. I think it may be 47, but it is the longest running #1 single in the history of music business across all genres. Nobody's ever done it. Michael Jackson's didn't do it. The Beatles didn't do it. Nobody's ever been #1 for 46 or 47 weeks. And it's amazing because what's so really amazing about the song Never Would Have Made It to me is that the song is 15 years old.
Wow.
And it's just people sing it like
it was yesterday.
So it's a song that keeps on giving, and it's put my kids through college. So I want to say thank you.
Thank you. Hey, look, I want to let everybody who's listening know that in just a few minutes, we're going to be taking your questions. So if you have questions, please write them in the chat box, and we'll be pulling some of the questions out. But, you know, I know folks have questions, so make them good questions now. Put your questions in the chat box, and we'll be answering G-rated questions. We're answering them in a few minutes. Okay. Tell me, TD Jakes. I read that he said to you that you should friend up. What did that mean?
Listen, I mean, okay, so years ago I used to always preach for Bishop Jakes, and I used to do music for Bishop Jakes a lot as well. So whenever I got with Bishop Jakes, I never did the preacher gossip type of thing, because I'm a very strong believer that whenever you get in the presence of people who are great or has done what you aspire to do, that you need to ask them questions. So every time he saw me, he knew Marvin's going to keep me in this church half the night. We're going to be talking to 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning. He's going to ask me a million questions. So right after Melinda passed away, I actually went to his church and did a concert. And we were talking. And of course, I asked him about books that he was reading. And when I asked if about books he was reading. He told me the books that he was reading. I already know who his favorite biblical theologian is. So he started telling me about other books. And I asked him, I said, tell me, if you wanted to give us advice in this season of our lives, this was 10 years ago, I said, what advice would you give us? And he said, Marvin, friend up. And I said, friend up? He said, yes, friend up. And what that means is that if your intent is to go to another level, you need to start trying to befriend people who are at that level that you're trying to go to. So that just simply means that not to get connected to people for the purpose of getting from them something tangible, but to be mentored either from a distance, up close, so that you can learn what you need to learn, so that once you arrive to that level that you desire to arrive to, you have the tools that are necessary and you have the equipment that you can be successful in what you desire to do. So when he told me to friend up, I'm telling you that has always been my mantra.
That's a great point. You know, one of my dear friends' father ran an investment bank. And he told me, if you want to be successful, surround yourself with people who are smarter than you are.
Absolutely.
And whatever you're not good at, that's friending up. That's it. Hey, so look, we have a question here from Mitchell Peace Joy Jen. Okay. What does Marvin wish he would have known before he got into the business? That's a good one.
Which one? Because I do so much. Are they talking about music?
So this is why, actually, because I was going to ask you about your businesses. So let's start with music, but then you can tell us about the other things you're doing as well.
Well, I mean, I own real estate. I have a full service restaurant that I still own in Michigan. I have a Barber Beauty, Mani Pedi, that I own there as well. I was the president and founder of the first public performing arts and technology charter school in all of West Michigan. I do too much. I write books and, I write music. I'm just a strong believer that all of us are multifaceted, that we're not just called to do one thing. I believe that God gifts us, that he gifts us so that we can maximize our moments and do as much as we possibly can that's within us to do. I think if you're talking about a musical standpoint, what I wished I would have learned as pertains to the business, I don't have anything really that I wish I would have learned, because when I first got into the music industry, I immediately started reading up on the industry that I was in. There's a book that I think any artist, if you are serious about this industry, that you need to get. And it's called Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business.
That's pretty straightforward.
Everything you need to know about the business. It is like the Bible for the gospel music industry. Well, for the music industry, not just gospel music. And it was given to me by the late, God, I just had his name on the tip of my tongue and just lost it. Wayman Tisdale. Okay. Wayman Tisdale wanted to sign me to his label. It had to be 26 years ago. And he gave me and Melinda this book. And when he gave it to us, I was still in commission. I started to read it. And when I started to read the book, I learned everything that I needed to know. But then the book updated. So every time the book updated, I went and got the book again and I read it again. So I would challenge people, if you're serious about any industry, go get a book on it and read it, because that's what's going to help you succeed in that area.
Well, and this is interesting because I've talked to a lot of artists. Leave the question up, I'll get to it in a second. But I've talked to a lot of artists over the years who, and fine for them, they're just inspired. They have to sing, they have to play, they have to do whatever. Few people talk about the business. So, and what you have just described about yourself is truly being a businessman. So we're going to go a little bit more on that in a second, but let's get to Maria Campbell Harris's question. She says, for many who have grown up in church, we know how to do church. How do you encourage us to be the church in dark times while navigating one's own darkness will work to be light? Well,
I think one of the things, church is a culture just like hip hop. and I tell people that all the time. We got our own slang, just like hip hop has their own slang. They'll come to you and say, hey, how you doing? How are you feeling? I'm blessed and highly favored. That's nothing but slang. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Grace and peace. Grace and peace. That's nothing but church slang. So we've learned how to navigate within the four walls of our culture. But at the same token, being the light literally means that we're supposed to be living epistles, which means that we're living letters. Some people will never read the Bible, but they will absolutely read your life. And I think that that's what we need to learn how to do. We need to learn how just to be the light, not to dress a certain kind of way, not to have makeup and all that kind of stuff. That's fine for inside the church. But the true test of your relationship with God and your witness is how you live your life outside, maintaining that example, maintaining your character, maintaining who you are as an individual. You don't have to carry a Bible. You don't have to quote scripture. People read your life before they'll read anything in that Bible. So if you live powerful. If you live the life that you're supposed to live, you're going to be the person that they need to see in that light in that dark place.
Marvin, when you say that, I think of my father, who's passed 20 plus years ago. And he wasn't really a man who went to church, but he was a man of God.
Right.
And he would tell my sisters and me about his favorite poem, which was written by a man named Edgar Guest. It was called Sermons We See. And the first line is, I would rather see a sermon than hear one any day. Any day. That's it. And that's what you're talking about. Okay, here's another question from Anita Winkfield. Yeah. Will there be a virtual commission reunion? My last concert before pandemic was at the Met in Philadelphia.
You saw it already. We talked about that too. We talked about myself and Fred and the fellas. We talked about doing a virtual concert in Fred's warehouse. We talked about doing that recently. But one of the things that you do need to know is that the commission movie is in the works. They're doing a movie on commission, and I believe, I'm almost sure. Well, I can't tell y'all who it's going to be directed by because I don't think that.
Who's going to play you?
I don't know. But
and wait, so Marvin, for anybody who may not know commission, right? Because that was way back, right?
Yeah, that was 1990, 30 years ago for me.
Tell us about commission.
Well, commission was a group that was really cutting edge back in the day. If you want to hear, like, commission was that R&B gospel group in essence. I mean, we sang gospel love songs and things of that nature. I mean, we were just that group that young people were able to listen to and feel like that they were hearing, music that met them where they were, but the lyrical content of the music was always Christ-centered. I mean, folks that listened to our music was like Boys to Men and Tank and oh my God, Tyrese and all of these different guys, Q Parker, all these different guys, they grew up listening to the group Commission. And all of your major R&B groups in the 90s, they took all of our vocals, they took our harmonies and things of that nature. So, we were edgy. Believe it or not, Commission never has never won any award. Ever.
But they had a huge impact.
But we had a huge impact and a huge following. And we didn't mind being edgy and pushing the envelope for kingdom's sake. And so now, Fred's about to turn 60 in a couple weeks. And I'm the baby of the group, and I'm about to be 54. So, I don't know if we're going to be doing a whole lot of touring.
Do you have your AARP card?
I actually do have my AARP card.
That's right.
I absolutely do. It's funny because y'all sent it to me when I was about to turn 50.
Yeah, that's
right at 49. And I was like, I was offended at first, but then I started calling my friends. They're like, "Oh man, you should check out the discounts and all this kind of stuff."
That's it.
So I was like, "This is real cool." So yeah, I use it.
And you know what? Not only are there discounts, because that's of course that is the lure, But especially now, like there's so much information. It's amazing how much information there is. And for our communities, there's information about COVID and caregiving and all the things that are affecting us today. There are experts who are part of the family that is AARP, which has 38 million members, so it's huge.
That's huge.
Yeah, who are making sure that we have the information we need so that we can take care of our families, which is just amazing to me. Okay, I want to know something. When you, in your fabulous 53 nest, look back at young Marvin, what advice would you give to young Marvin today?
I would probably tell young Marvin, man, it's going to really hurt. You're going to lose people along the way. But just stay focused because you're going to win in the end. That's what I would tell him, because I think one of the things that I've learned is that I was at my wife's funeral, never forget this. And, I was not just her husband, I was her pastor. And as a pastor, I had to cover her up for the last time. I had to close the casket. And I'm crying. I'm just bawling because I'm like, this is the last time I'm going to see her. And strangely enough, I had a conversation with God. And I heard just as clear God asking me, what did I learn from this?
Wow.
And I was like, I thought I was the devil. I was like, I'm not going to pay any attention to this. And then I heard God say again clearly, Marvin, what did you learn from this? And then he said it to me for the third time. And when he said it to me for the third time, I said, God, what should I have learned? And these are the words that I remember him saying so clearly to me. He said, Marvin, what you should have learned is that every relationship outside of your relationship with me is seasonal.
Wow.
And I think that's what we tend to try to take people into seasons of our lives that we should leave in old seasons. And that's where we get messed up. So I would just tell Marvin, honestly, the last thing I would tell him is that, people shouldn't be, but they are seasonal. So remain connected to me, to the God of your salvation, because you can get through anything as long as you have me.
Do you have any regrets?
Oh, no, none. Who has time to regret? I mean, sit back and look over. No, I ain't got time for regrets. I mean, there's things that I wish I could have did. I wish I would have done, but I don't regret not doing them. I have an amazing life.
Yeah.
And when I say I have an amazing life, I mean, like, I don't have everything that I want, but I have everything that I need. I did say this, though. I told God, I said, I don't know if I want any more hit songs, because every time I write a hit, I got to take a hit first. So I don't know if I necessarily want to have another Never Would Have Made It, because Never Would Have Made It was written after my father passed away. The Best in Me was written after my father passed away. The song My Testimony was written after my wife passed away. Those are like three of the biggest songs that I've ever had. And I'm like, okay, God, I'm good with this, this hit stuff. If I could just be consistent and give people messaging that encourages and revitalizes and uplifts, I'm good. I really am. But I do want y'all to go out and get that new CD. Get it now. It's called
Chosen Vessel.
It's in the stores. And if you don't buy your music in the store, you can download it on any of your streaming platforms. I promise you'll be a blessing. I actually got a Christmas record too.
Tell us. I
got a Christmas record. It's called Christmas Card. So I want to challenge y'all to get that as well. It's on iTunes and everything else. I did it 5 years ago, but I promise you it'll be a blessing. That's the closest to R&B I'll ever get, that Christmas Card record.
That's fantastic. Oh, that's good to know. And just in the minute that we have left, what's next for Marvin Sapp?
Wow. What's next for Marvin Sapp? I don't know. I do got some stuff in the in the closet that I can't tell y'all about right now. But I'm excited about what 2021 is going to bring. I can give you this, though. I've always been a strong believer that a part of my assignment is to bring up other talent and to use my platform to give them a platform. So 2021 is going to be my year of at least finding 10 very gifted individuals nationally and allowing them to use my platform to do something great for the kingdom of God musically. So that's really what I'm looking forward to. And I believe that I've done a lot. So, you know, I've shined for a long time. So I think I'm good. I think I'm good.
And I want to let everybody know they can go to your website, marvinsapp.com. He's written so many books, and guess where you buy them? Through him.
Through my website.
And that, which is very smart entrepreneurial way of doing it. And the most recent book, Suitable, we didn't even talk about it, but it's how to find the right partner for you. Go to his website. Suitable is the book that's the most recent book.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bishop Marvin Sapp. Thank you for helping us end this year with joy, with faith, with hope. Thank you for sharing your joy with us and your artistry. We so appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Well, and I want to thank all of you. Thank you for being with us here at AARP Black Community. We've been doing these programs, Real Conversations, since June. We've had some amazing guests like Marvin Sapp. We started with Felicia Rashad. We had Andre Leon Talley, Andre DeShields. Oh, I could go on and on. We've had amazing, amazing guests, and we will continue to bring amazing guests to you in 2021. We decided to create this programming so that we could come into your living rooms, into your homes, and create an intimate moment where we can fellowship together, where we can learn, where we can laugh, where we can cry, where we can just be together. So thank you for spending this time with us. We appreciate you. Be safe during this holiday season. Figure out creative ways to be with your family and loved ones so that we can all remain healthy and leap into 2021 with our hearts open and ready for what's next. Thank you so much for being with us. And until 2021, make each moment count.